Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts. Ever wonder what bridges the gap between your favorite film genres, subgenres, and movements? CinemaScope is here to explore these connections, taking you on a thrilling odyssey through the ever-evolving art of cinema. I'm your host, Andy Nelson, and in each episode, we embark on a deep dive into the forces that sculpt the world of film. From the styles you know and love, like heist films or the French New Wave, to the ones you may not be as familiar with, like Turkish Yeşilçam or Brazilian Nordwesterns, my expert guests and I unravel the complex tapestry of storytelling, style, and innovation that defines the world of film as we unpack the myriad catalysts of change that shape these diverse styles. Whether you're a student of film, a creative professional, or simply a devoted movie enthusiast, CinemaScope is your gateway to a richer, more immersive film experience. Don't just watch movies, understand them, appreciate them, and revel in their artistry with CinemaScope. Subscribe today.
What's up, Supernatural superfans? I'm Chrissy Lenz.
And I'm Nate McWhorter.
And we're the host of
Gang That Drink,
a supernatural drinking game podcast.
It's the podcast where we make up drinking game rules for a favorite episode of our favorite show, Supernatural.
We recap the episode for you and let you know how all the rules played out.
Then we let you know the drinking game rules for the next episode, so you can play along.
Plus, members get every episode early and ad-free,
with some extra bonus content chit-chat at the end of each episode as a member exclusive.
So download Gank That Drink, a supernatural drinking game podcast, wherever the finest podcasts are available.
And or become a member at truestory.fm/gankthatdrink.
And when you're out there in the world saving people and hunting things,
you know, the family business.
Keep the Gank That Drink motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and party
on, dudes.
The film board gathers. The gang of thugs is here to take on a movie currently in theaters. And is it just me, or is it getting crazier out there? Because this month, we're strapping ourselves in for a trip to Arkham as we dissect Todd Phillips' highly anticipated, lowly performing Joker, Folie.
2 years ago, the name Arthur Fleck hit Gotham like a hurricane.
The trial of the century.
They believe Arthur Fleck to be some kind of martyr. Well, he's not. There's a monster.
When you're smiling, when you're smiling.
When I first saw Joker, when I saw you,
the whole world smiles with you.
For once in my life, I didn't feel so alone anymore.
When you're laughing, oh, when you're laughing.
For once in my life, I have someone who needs me.
How about you, Arthur? Do you still think you're a star?
Showtime.
I'm not alone in this descent into madness. Joining me today are two gentlemen who aren't afraid to stare into the abyss and laugh along with the chaos. First up, a man whose insights are sharper than his Sinatra, Steve Sarmento.
My friend, I'll say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. Regrets? I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. And this film, I saw it through without exemption. I saw it my way.
And completing our villainous trio, a man whose knowledge of comic book lore is as vast as the Joker's gallery of gruesome gags, and by that I mean not very, Tommy Metz III.
I'm also here. Hello.
I noticed you don't have a prepared bit of wit for us.
I absolutely do not. Allergies.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. Hey, Joker, Folie à deux. Okay. Oh, man.
Oh, my.
Where were your expectations going into this movie?
High.
Yeah, Steve? High?
Yeah, they were fairly high.
And then our opening thoughts are, were they met?
Yes-ish, I would say. I mean, I started to question them as, release got near and initial reviews came out, and I thought, oh, let's temper these expectations a bit. So I lowered the bar a bit, and I think that was probably a wise thing to do.
Okay.
The afternoon before I saw it, I watched Joker because it had been a while. So I wanted to come in this right off the tails of the first one to go right into the second one. I think that helped. I think it really helped not having a significant gap of time between the viewing of the two of them.
Yeah. Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I was really enjoying the movie, to be honest. I thought the style was there. I thought it was interesting. I liked the relationship between Lady Gaga. Potentially, I was defensive of it because all of the early thoughts about it were so negative. And I was like, what's happening? Why is it so negative? I think I expected the movie to show up at some point. Like, I was like, I'll get what they're saying at some point.
Right.
I never got there. I don't know what the movie is trying to say other than, remember the first movie? More. But other than that, I had a really good time. I think it overstayed its welcome, but I don't understand why people are so angry about it unless I just missed something big. For a lot of it, I thought was great.
I think that's the issue with this movie. I am confused by this movie. I think I was one who went in my opinion of the movie pre-sullied. Like, I expected it to be trash. And because I did not like really the first Joker all that much. I didn't really care for that movie. I thought, and I'm one of those, okay, I was one of the preening masses who thought, why did they put the Joker name on it? Like, it just needed to be, the movie that it was, but without the whole DC lore stuff. I didn't understand the purpose of that. And so I went into this movie thinking, well, if it's just more, what are we going to get out of it? And then they gave me this movie that was beautifully presented. Like, it was just gorgeously shot. The camera was extraordinary.
You're
The
talking about
light,
first or second?
the color, the second.
Second, go ahead.
Light, color, the makeup, the way just dances off every pore of his face when he's fully made up, like all of that. The fact that Joaquin Phoenix is this is a performative masterclass. I thought he was terrific. It's sort of a musical, half-assed musical, sort of a musical. I found myself enjoying a lot of it, and then the end of the movie happens and totally redeemed the first movie for me as a pair. And we'll talk about that specifically. I don't see anywhere in this movie that equates to the rumored $200 million plus budget. Like, this movie was overspent. And I think some of the conflict in the movie, comes straight from Todd Phillips' creative control issues and what they gave him. And but other than that, like, I too am confused by the general sort of negative reaction and certainly the box office reaction to this movie. It's a better movie maybe than it deserves to be.
Yeah, I'm not on the same page with, it seems like, the large film going audience. I don't understand what I got out of it or what they missed.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take a stab at it if you want. I mean, I think there's two things that it has going against it, which is you cast Lady Gaga in a musical, but you're not really getting Lady Gaga. You're getting the actress playing a role. So it is not like A Star is Born where she's supposed to be a talented singer. You've got a character that is going to sing who does not have much of a musical background. So you're not going to get a Lady Gaga performance. And then you've got, the movie that is anticipated to give us the Joker movie that we're going to get the second part of that origin story. And I think the fandom, rebelled against that because they didn't get what they wanted. And I had a feeling that there was anticipation of, we get to see the Joker set loose. The criminal mastermind breaks out and we get the chaos of that. And I thought, no, Todd Phillips is going to make a character piece. So I'd already tempered that expectation. But I think those were two things that it didn't deliver on. And I'm fine with that. I actually am totally happy with the film I got, because it gives us something different than that. But to me, that, in my opinion, is the things that would have given it the traditional success if it had fulfilled those expectations.
That's a good point. I wasn't prepared for this movie to be so obsessed with the first movie. It's just a reaction to the first movie, and it's society's reaction, it's his reaction, it's the court's reaction, it's all of that. And I wasn't prepared for that, but no, like Steve says, I was fine with it for the most part. Yeah.
For the most part, I think so. I want to break down kind of what the movie is principally. And first and foremost, it's a legal procedural, right? Like we spend so much time in the courthouse. I think that exhausted my synapses after a while. I think that's the thing that made me feel like when the movie that's where the movie overstayed its welcome. And that I found was tiresome. I don't necessarily want to say boring, but I could. Like, I could get there. I feel like the movie ended up being, in some cases, boring. Just in some areas boring because there was just a long time in and out of court, walking to and from court, from the prison, from the hospital. Like, there's just a lot of that kind of transfer around. And that's what I mean. Like, how much, how many hundreds of millions of dollars do they spend on walking down those chain link fences? A lot, right? That's where it is. Nice fences. So what's your sense of how the movie stacks up in terms of the, like, Tommy, to your point, the reaction to the first film, spending so much time in the legal system?
That's where, when I said I expected the movie to show up, it was that final court scene, especially the one involving Mr. Puddles, where I feel like the movie finally got up against something interesting and refused to comment on it. When I don't understand what they were trying to do. Mr. Puddles calls him out for being like, you were the only one that was nice to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're a bully. Now you're the worst of the people. Are they saying Joker, like, live long enough and your heroes will become villains, that he was trying to be the stand up for the little man and instead he became the big man? He just says, I rest my case. I don't want any more questions. And he goes back to his bench. Then he's taken back to prison. Whatever happens in that shower happens. And then the movie just sort of ends near there. I mean, there's a real big turn when he says, I'm not Joker. I've always been Arthur. I don't understand what they're saying. And I'm very willing to say I just missed it. But I really wanted them to say something new and I couldn't figure it out. But the movie really thought it was doing something. And so that's where I just got really confused. It also, one thing, having this movie be such a direct response to the first movie, it took out some of the fun ambiguity. I was never sure after the first Joker, did everyone run riot, or was that sort of in his head? You spend so much time in his head. I thought that he killed Zazie Beetz' character and his daughter in the first one. They don't show up, but she says, what are you doing here? And he's like, I've had a rough day. Hard cut to him menacingly walking out of the apartment and walking out. She's fine. Yeah. Like, there was just some weird choices of things that happen off camera that I didn't like as much. It's clear from the very beginning that everyone has gone nuts and they are running rampant in the city. I liked a little bit of the ambiguity more.
Well, and this, turning just a bit gently toward the music, like the music became the tool in this movie. And there is, for me, no ambiguity about what was happening in his head versus what was happening in real life because of the music as a tool. And I think, whatever you feel about this movie as a half-assed musical, as a narrative tool, it actually removed any ability for us to have a more robust comment on what was real and what was not, because we know the answer to that question.
I still question. There's a couple scenes where I'm not sure, because we do start with that first, I think the first musical sequence that we have where he's standing in front of the TV.
Someone who needs me.
Someone who needs me. And we get that, and it plays it like it's straight. We don't have like a cut to like we're on a stage and dream sequence. It's sort of like right there. And then there's that at the end, a cut to him back in front of the TV, and you realize, okay, no, that was in his head. So there was a blurring there of from reality to when we get into what's in his fantasy. And so I felt like there were some scenes that I questioned, like when Lee Quinn comes and visits him, and when he's in solitary, I thought there's no realistic way she could actually be there. Is that something that he's imagining? Because there's no one else there.
Right.
It's not that case of, oh, she's there, there's other people around, so she obviously must really be there. They see her, they're responding to her. It's just the two of them. So I questioned a couple scenes where are we back where we were in the first film, where it seems like it's real, but we might be in his fantasy. So I felt like there was enough ambiguity in a couple of scenes where I sort of clung to that. He still has lost his grip on what's really real still.
And someone brings up when they escape, they don't escape very far, but they escape to the front gates. Someone comments on her and her singing.
Yeah.
So there was a certain amount of singing in reality because someone else brings it up. I like that stuff. I like peppering in the unclear. Also, when she visits him in solitary, she says that a guard let her in. There's nothing I would do. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you. I thought hinting that maybe she gave the guard some sort of a favor in order to get in for a little bit. Just teaming it up with there's nothing I wouldn't do with you. Yeah. I put her in there.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
I think I did too, which was going to make watching this a second time really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I ended up approaching it with a much more sort of practical, eye that I knew I was sure what was in his head and what wasn't. But I think I might be not quite generous enough to the film. So generally, I thought the relationship with Lady Gaga, I thought was interesting with Lee Quinn, was interesting. And she had weirdly more of a character than I expected her to have. And I still wonder if they knew she was Lady Gaga when they cast her.
Well, this is the thing is she's not, Lady Gaga is a persona.
Yes.
She is a person and so it's that, is Lady, are you casting Lady Gaga in this film? Are you casting, what's her name? Stephanie, right? Who's going to now play this part, who is going to be credited as Lady Gaga because that's how you need to market yourself. But for her, I could see this as, I'm going to put the Gaga persona to the side to act in this. And I thought we got that a little bit in like A Star Is Born. We start to see that, or in the what was the other, the Gucci movie or whatever, right? Where it's like, it's not a Gaga-esque role. She's not playing herself. So I'm looking at the person who's going to try on some different, I'm an actor, I'm going to try on some different things and not have to bring that. And I read an article where she said it was a bit of a challenge I have to sing in a movie being somebody that's not a, professional singer. So the singing is not going to be of that caliber because it would make no sense for this character to be able to sing like that. And I think the other part is you can't throw Joaquin Phoenix up against a Lady Gaga. If you're going to have them sing a duet, it would just be too mismatched. And I thought that brought the rawness in their vocals, just that awkwardness, just to me grounded it more in that. Instead of everything's a spectacular, wonderful musical, it takes us into that world of two broken, fragmented people into their fantasy that it's not picture perfect. There's still some rough edges around it. And that really worked for me, at least. But I'm not a singer, so I'm glad that I can sing along and not sound out of tune when I sing with these songs.
I thought it was a little interesting how square the music choices were. I didn't mind them, but like the first one had hey, like they were anachronistic with the music in the first one. Why not be anachronistic with the music in this one? It was like, what are the first 5 songs you think of from crooners or New York?
Yeah.
And that's what they did. It's interesting. And I guess maybe because That's Life was Robert De Niro's theme song in his show, that's his biggest influence, so I get it. I just think that with the music, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I was desperate during his Someone Who Needs Me in the prison. In the prison, when he's watching, I was like, please cut back and make this in his head. Please cut back and make this. If it had just ended, because remember they have people like pretending to play the piano. Everyone is like bopping along to him. And I was like, if this just ends and he did sing that song and everyone's like, great song, Arthur, I'm going to be like, we have made a critical miscalculation. And luckily, just when I was like, oh no, they did bring it back. And time has it. Answer the question, Arthur. Do you think you're still whatever the thing was? And I was like, oh, thank God they're using it as a vehicle for his mind. I loved it. I think they could have gone farther, but I don't know if I'm comfortable just saying that it's a half-assed musical. I think it's something a little bit new. It's something different. That using the music was so important for the first one. Using music in this way and letting him go on flights of fancy. I thought it really worked. There was one time when I thought it wasn't working, when all of a sudden in the middle of a court case, we're cueing to another musical scene, but then that's the one where he starts beating the hell out of everybody. And I was like, oh, okay, we're upping the game. We're changing something.
Yeah.
So I was a big fan.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like that, those are the showpiece, like the showstopper numbers, and I was in it. Like, you tell me when does the movie show up? It's those sequences, and I think, and I wanted more of that. I wanted the movie to commit to the bit in a much more exaggerated way. I wanted more of the showstopper. I wanted the environment to change, because when the environment changes, I'm in a different place in his head with the character. And I felt like that took me someplace. When it's just him hanging around, like half singing and, maybe occasionally singing along with Brendan Gleeson. I don't know. Like, I just wasn't there enough. And I felt like I felt the movie in that area was timid. All due respect to your comment, I think you're right. This is something new, and maybe I wanted something old, or just wanted more.
To pick a lane. It doesn't. I see timid is timid. I feel better about timid than half-assed. And you don't have to. You can say whatever you want. I don't want to be like grading your language.
I've got some other words for it.
But
I'll roll those out later.
Because when it goes there, it really does. So it has to show I have the ability and know where to put the camera and know how to do this with outstanding lighting design. Yeah. With wonderful, I think maybe once or twice someone smokes in the movie. That's a joke. Everyone's smoking constantly.
Everyone smokes all the time.
But like they use the smoke for beautiful lighting effects and all of that. To show I can go there, but I'm just going to do it twice. Maybe it's a little frustrating. I get it.
It was. Yeah. It set me up for something that it wasn't. It also set me up for, I don't know, Joaquin Phoenix's Pilates instructor. How many times does he take a drag and then throw his arms back and do his head tilt thing? All the time. As many times as people smoke, he's like peacocking that way. And I actually thought that was a really interesting physical choice, especially because it works so well with the sort of Dame-esque, musical stylings. And those physical bits tie the worlds together, right? Because he's doing that in real life too.
Right. And he did that in the first movie famously. It became the poster
at the top of the stairs.
He kills the not at the top of the stairs, actually. He does that after he kills the subway people and he goes into the bathroom. Right. He ends his panic attack. And then they actually took that. It was like B-roll during that weird scene. That ended up being the really unconventional poster for the first movie. I'm a little worried that, like, because it was the poster, he forgot all the other stuff he was doing and just kept doing that. It got a little. I wanted him to do that weird big shoe kick more.
Yeah, more shoe kicks for sure. For sure. So other comments on Joker, Joker-esque stuff, how Joaquin Phoenix pulled it off. I mean, I liked his performance overall. I thought he was fantastic.
And he's funny. There's so much dark humor, like and one of the things I really did like, especially once he's Joker in the courtroom, he's just like listening along to the testimony. He's like, yeah, that guy does sound crazy. Like he's just doing all of these fun little things, which is really fun and funny and dark to watch.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah.
So that's another show up point. Did you ever think, and I think you already brought this up, right, that when he just says no further questions, I'm done. Did you want him to be Joker, attorney at law a little bit longer?
I did, because the movie, that's again, I'm not saying that, because it was kind of funny when he was doing like his sort of Southern lawyer act and stuff. But then again, the movie finally was addressing something that I could get my hands on, and it shied away from it right when it was getting interesting. Yeah. So that was right around the time when I was like, oh, I've enjoyed my time here and I don't understand what I'm supposed to feel, how I'm supposed to feel. That's when I started really losing my direction with the film.
Well, that's where I always have to come back to who Arthur Fleck is. And it's
Mhm.
that tricky balance between what's going to work best for the story and am I going to say this is a realistic film and like who is this guy? He's not a genius. He's not that smart. He's just some working class schmo that, was abused by his mom, has some job as a clown, was on some mental meds for his issues. So he's not some like criminal genius.
Right.
That's not who Arthur Fleck is. And that's going to lead into, I think, what happens at the end and why the film ends the way it does. But that is, I was in the same place like, oh, this is his opportunity because we do get that peacock and we get that little bit of arrogance about him. But that's as far as Arthur can go, I think, as a person. He gets outside his comfort zone after that. I don't know that he knows how to play a lawyer other than what he's seen on TV. I don't know that he has that skill set or that depth of knowledge in a lot of those things to like, oh, I'm going to turn into, Joker attorney at law at this point, because the Joker is just this rage that has come out of him. Is sort of how I see it versus, a completely developed, criminal mastermind persona.
That's a good point, and I agree, because it seemed like his defense was Puddles, question mark. Remember after he questions Puddles,
Yeah.
that it seemed like he was maybe he started to talk about almost like getting into what is a joke and what is not. How do we take things seriously? But then he backed off right when Puddles got interesting, which was a little bit of a drag. And that is his highest point when he says, no, the defense rests. I've said all I have to do. And even on top, like Steve is saying, he is brought low. In the very next scene, he gets the heck beat out of him by all the prison people, just because I guess he called them fat. I'm not exactly sure where that rage came from. But I would have liked a little bit more of a clear line for that. I like that idea of we've built up this massive mythical character, and then in real life, he's just a guy that puts on face paint and is not accepted and is not allowed, because unlike Heath Ledger's Joker, he doesn't have this weird army and like endless bottles of oil, like barrels of oil everywhere.
Right.
That's all
So
that
much
Heath Ledger had. So much oil. I think it's interesting, but it is distracting because it just spits in the face of so much canon, and I'm not a canon lover. But like, I believe Harley Quinn was never just this person he met in prison or rehab. Harley Quinn was a psychologist that
Right.
he drove insane. And then with the very end of this movie, we're doing all sorts of weird stuff to canon, which is, I think is fun.
That's where I would say maybe. And that's where I would say this is, if we're going to start treading into that territory, the name of this movie and the first one are Joker, not The Joker.
Right.
And I have to say, I think that was a clear decision. Now, I think there's a lot of retconning that happened with this second one of what the intent of the first one was as a standalone. And now, okay, it made enough money. We're getting this pressure to do a sequel. How do we cram this in there? And and I think the ending happened for multiple reasons. One, Todd Phillips saying, I'm done with this. I'm going to finish this off. Secondly, like, we're not tying this into anything else. So I think that for me, Arthur Fleck is not the Joker, and there's a variety of reasons for that. Coming back to, he is not the criminal mastermind. I think his relationship with Harley Quinn puffs him up a lot because there's somebody that finally cares about him, and I think that does something to a person like Arthur of like, I am a complete person. I'm feeling whole for the first time in my life, and it can give him some of that confidence, but at what cost? Because this comes back to the title. What is this delusion that is shared between the two of them of she's looking for somebody to be her partner in crime, somebody that's as corrupt, evil, wicked, or whatever as she is. And Arthur's not willing to go that far because that's not who he is. And I think that's the turn for the character. I think that's the pivotal point for him.
When he admits that it's just, I've just always been Arthur.
Yeah, I think there's that. Yeah, I think that's with Puddles. I think that is that piece, and then what happens afterwards, the death of the other prisoner, Ricky, poor young Ricky, because that shot is just this slow pushing in on Arthur as we just hear it happening of Ricky standing up and then basically getting strangled to death, and Arthur's responsible. for that death. I
Right.
think he feels responsible. Arthur's not a killer. He's killed 6 people, 5 that they know of. So it's the 3 guys on the subway that were complete assholes and that beat him. So he took that out on them. You've got Randall, the guy that basically sort of set him up with the gun in the first film,
Right.
and basically said, "Oh no, Arthur, came and tried to wanted to buy that gun for me," when Arthur didn't. Randall just gave it to him. Arthur's mother, who was abusive to him, and then Murray, who's this asshole that insults him on live TV. So it's 6 people that were really mean to Arthur. Those are the people he kills. He never kills anybody innocent. He's not a sociopath.
Yeah.
And so I think that death, being culpable for the death of Ricky, I think is one of the things that breaks him a lot as well. Of, that's not who I am. I'm not somebody that's embracing chaos and wants people to die. I'm a guy that got put upon by society and fought back against the people that were hurting me. And so that's why I'd say he's not Joker. He's a guy that got angry, and that's why he doesn't embrace that chaos out in the streets. Those
and that's
guys
why
that are like,
nobody
we got
likes this
him.
movie. I get it. This is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
starting to come. I know that you said this before, but you saying that
Yeah.
alongside this, what the movie was saying is coming much clearer for me, and I really appreciate it.
We're in ultimate spoiler territory, obviously. The last scene, because we're continuing a thread. The last scene is the death of Arthur Fleck, and he is stabbed by another resident of Arkham Hospital and a sociopath and somebody who is parading around in all of the other tropes of the Joker, an
Yes.
agent of chaos that comes out of nowhere, and in the background we see him carving his face
Right.
Yeah.
with a knife that he has just stabbed Arthur Fleck with. That, to me, why I think that is so provocative is because, to me, that makes this pair of movies an exploration of a guy who is totally broken, right? He is broken from abuse and from fear and from all of the things that have happened to him in his life. He is the sum total of all of that rage. He has broken himself, and it turns out that what he created, what hath he wrought, is the birth of the Joker. And it took us 2 movies to get to the last 60 seconds of that story. And I think that is curiouser and curiouser. I was struggling at the point of the bomb in the courthouse.
Right.
Because our Joker, Arthur Fleck, gets out, right? We realize we've learned now from him that he's not we're coming to terms with the fact that he's not committing to the Joker bit, right? He's much more human. And we get out and we see what's going on outside, and he's picked up by some guys and he's driven away. And we get this whole vibe of, oh my God, speaking of what hath he wrought, now Arthur Fleck is running from what he created. Right. Unintentionally created. All of the love and adulation that he is getting is so negative, and he's now running from it. And I couldn't help but think in that moment, I wonder if they made the wrong movie, because what was going on outside, watching Arthur actually run from his creation, was so much more interesting to me than what was in the courthouse.
Oh,
I was curious every time we'd hear them screaming out the window. I kept thinking, I want to see what's out there, much more than what I'm watching right here. I don't know if that would have worked with the ending that we got that I like so much. I don't know if that would have worked, but I do wonder if the movie, if that's one of the reasons the movie doesn't tie together for me. Does any of this relate to either of you?
Well, Arthur, it's the whole Joker is this whole cult of personality piece now, where it's like, yes, one of them dressed up exactly like Joker as he was on the Murray show, all of that he never intended this. It's celebrity. When somebody does something, they become famous, and all of a sudden you've got people that, have that want to be you, that are, idolize you. And he's like, I'm just a guy that got pissed off and fought back against some guys trying to take advantage of me. I fought back against the world. I am not a hero. I'm not trying to break the system. I'm not trying to do all these things. And that, I think, scares the crap out of Arthur, of like, the world is on, it was already against him, and now it's even more disorderly than before. I don't think he was seeking disorder. He was seeking some justice in the world, for a guy that continually gets stepped on. And I agree. I think that's one of the things that some of the fans may have wanted more of, was that what is the chaos going out in the streets? It is that's what the Joker brings to the world. Because we got a hint of it in the first film, we got a hint of it in the second one, and I think it teases it. And I am right there with you, Pete. I wanted a little bit more, because I wanted to see maybe less of the courtroom, more of Arthur's struggle with that temptation of, I could just go along with this, because he's lost Lee, right? Because he disavows the Joker identity. She's like, well, done. I'm not in this with you anymore. It's like, that would have been interesting in his pursuit of Lee to be tempted with that, to embrace that a little bit. But that's an entirely different story. And I don't know that gets us to the end that we have, which I agree is very satisfying it's a horrible duo of a tragedy, right? It's really rough and dark, but it is fulfilling to me.
Yeah, I like that he comes through his big revelation in a courtroom. He sort of puts himself on trial, in effect, which is interesting. But yes, again, I'm now having, in real time, better understanding about this movie after talking to you guys. So I'm having a little bit of trouble. Like, I have to process some of that. But yes, a little bit more, because the movie also doesn't want to glorify what's going on and what Joker has created. Right. So to spend more time outside, it did. Yes, it did feel, because we spent so much time in the courtroom and then he is bust out and then runs and is immediately back in. It did feel disjointed. It did feel a little weird. And I was questioning, like, is this real? But not in a fun way. Am I supposed to think this is real? Because this is coming along late and weird and sudden, that wasn't completely satisfying, but I like the idea very much.
What's your relationship with that last scene, and this, in speaking in terms of the lore of Joker?
I was just distracted. I needed someone to tell me, because I don't know anything about canon. You even made a joke about my lack of comic book knowledge, but I know about Batman. He's that one guy. He's the one guy because he doesn't have superheroes powers. Right. That's why I always liked Batman. And so the fact that I knew a little bit about Batman, and I know that Joe Cool, like, I had trouble with Tim Burton movies because that Joe Cool didn't kill the parents, that Joker did. And I was like, even I know that's not true. And so I would rather have known what you just said, that it's called Joker, not the Joker. I love that. And I wish I sort of knew that, in the way of, like, when I went to see the Dark Tower movie, I wish it had been called A Dark Tower Tale. Like, we're not telling the Dark Tower, we're saying something in the world. Like, what's going on with the Penguin now on Mac, which I'm personally loving, is because it's not following all of that stuff. And no one's saying the word Batman because it's its own thing. I love not being distracted and can just sort of dip myself in there. It's what I wanted from this movie a little bit more.
I think that's the thing about it. And I like that you brought up Penguin, because Penguin, I don't think people have as much of a problem with playing with Penguin. Right. I think you can do whatever the hell you want with Penguin. He's got all kinds of crazy backstory, and what he does in Gotham is fun and interesting, and umbrellas and long noses. Like, you can play with that all you want. And I like what they're doing on Max, because they're playing in a playground that's rich. The thing about the Joker is that he exists as an identity piece for Batman. And it's hard to have a movie, a story about Joker, that doesn't involve Batman, because they are yin and yang. They are designed as yin and yang. Batman, Bruce Wayne, has extraordinary backstory. We know it because it's told in every damn thing that comes out about Batman.
So many pearls in the alley.
So many pearls in the alley, right?
Yeah.
Joker has no origin story, right? Joker is chaos, and that is to fight Batman's order. That's it. That's what they are. And that's why Joker is such a fascinating character, because there's no leverage. There is no leverage that Batman has against Joker. That's what makes Joker fascinating in that spirit. So trying to shoehorn backstory onto a character like Joker is, I think hard. I think that's what I, as a fan, would react to. Like, you're going too far. Why are you doing it? And that's why I didn't like the fact that they called it Joker in the first movie. I wanted it to be just like, call it Arthur, whatever you want to do, but it's not Joker. The fact that we get that reveal at the end that it was, in fact, that there's a copycat that might have a more interesting story, I thought was a huge win, and lets me feel more for Arthur Fleck, and for what he allowed to be created because of his insecurities.
Because
and his
Batman,
brokenness.
Arthur Fleck, saw young Bruce Wayne in the first movie up against the fence.
Mhm.
So the idea is that maybe if you want to keep the canon straight, this new copycat, or even a copycat of that copycat, is going to be the one that ends up fighting Batman.
Yeah.
And we
Something
don't know
like that.
his past. We don't. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's fascinating. I love that. That's great.
I think it is. And I think
I
it
need
makes
someone
these.
to tell me that so I could just breathe easier and not try
Yeah.
to figure out, but wait, what's Batman going to do all day?
Well,
Because I was like, what Joker? Well, that was dumb. Like, what's Batman going to do? I guess that's one down. Just go straight to the Riddler.
we haven't talked about the opening cartoon, because to me that sets everything up.
Right.
So talk
Is
about it.
the-
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Because I'm like, we're starting with this cartoon, but it's me and my shadow, and it's the Joker, but the shadow. And so you've got the person, and again, that cultural piece, that persona that's out there, that's bigger than, that's going to commit to all those things. And so it sets that up in that cartoon, of that dichotomy in Arthur of himself and the Joker persona, but also between Arthur and, as you know, stirring up some stuff and it becoming bigger to the point of creating that cult of chaos that's out there that is copycatting him. And it's all set up in that cartoon, because I thought, why you have to, it's got to be intentional. If you're going to do that, you're going to do a little Warner Brothers cartoon. Yeah, great. It's a throwback to when we had little cartoon shorts before movies. But if you're going to tell a story, I'm going to pay attention, say, what are you trying to set up? What is an echo that I should be looking for in this story that I'm about to see, that you're establishing in this? You're setting my expectation, my frame of mind around something. And I thought, by the time I got to the end, I thought, I get it. Now I see exactly why that short was the way it was, because it set up everything. As soon as his attorney is setting up the, oh no, it's a split personality thing. We see Arthur denouncing, but the guys outside that are, doing chaos in the name of Joker. I thought, it's that whole me and my shadow. I'm separate from that thing that is now becoming more than me. So I love that. I thought it was just, clever at first, but yeah, that made so much more sense by the end of the film.
I'm right with you. I thought it was a fantastic way to open the movie, and to fit in the performative aspect of this being a timid musical. I think it added so much to just, and as we talk through the movie, right, it becomes clear that it was that the shadow is what ended up killing him at the end of the movie, right? If you extend the comic metaphor, the shadow got away from him and did him in.
Who do you think was coming to visit him?
I don't know that it was anybody.
The guards were in on it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was
Brendan
going
Gleeson's
to be Harley Quinn.
Oh,
I was sad
no. She's done with him. She's like, no, you broke the fantasy. And I think Brendan Gleeson's character, that guard, is a very interesting character, because it's like, oh, they play with Arthur. Oh, like, tell us a joke. You get a cigarette, getting him involved in that like music class or whatever. It's like, but then, as you said, like, beating the snot out of him because what he called them fat buffoons or whatever, it's just this
vindictive,
wide variant. Yes, exactly. So it's at this point of like, I think that was a setup as well. I don't think there was anybody really there.
You thought it was Harley? You thought it was Lee?
I loved the melancholiness. They had featured the guy who maybe is going to be the copycat Joker. He was just good looking enough and just interesting enough that we saw that was coming. As soon as he ended up in that hallway, I was like, no! So you saw it coming. It wasn't like a real surprise, but there was something just so sad about having a visitor, because he seemed like happy. He seemed like maybe he had finally paid his price, had figured something out. But no, it makes more sense that it was a setup, because no one was around and he had this is a prisoner who just had a very obvious weapon. I get it.
Yes. Yeah. Another character origin story we get in this sort of out the side door is Harvey Dent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys watch Industry?
Is he in Industry?
There were two different people. He and then the Ken Young, who is one of the first witnesses.
Oh,
yeah.
Like the psychiatrist that's saying, no, I don't believe in split personality or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're both two of the main leads of Industry. I just thought it was interesting.
Oh.
I have never seen Industry, and I have to tell you, every time we were in court and Harvey Dent speaks, I was taken out of the movie. I thought he was just horrifically miscast. He's very talented, and he belongs on a yacht with Daddy. Like, he was just he did not fit in this town. He was way too young for the character. And I know this was earlier in time, but as a result, I did not believe him. I like so much that they tried to give him that little origin story after the bombing, where we see half his face all cut up, but it wasn't worth it. It was not worth it for me. Do you have any love for Harvey Dent for future Two-Face?
I like that actor so much. I'm a big Industry fan. So I remember going, hey, the guy from Industry. And then apparently I shut down because I don't remember. Yeah.
No, Pete, I was right there with you. I thought this case seems to be too big for such a young guy to be like, oh, they're just going to throw this to him. I didn't get a sense of like, oh, he's the up and coming like assistant DA or something like that. I may have missed something, but I thought this seems like some kid out of law school for a year or two, and they're giving him what I'm assuming is a pretty big case. It's somebody who's, getting interviewed for television. Steve Coogan in there doing that whole, like, it's not just like, oh, some guy that, murdered his mom and we're going to do trial. This is big headline news, and you would think the city would bring some big guns in on this case. So I struggled with that, just the age piece on that. I kept feeling like something was off. Like there's some reveal coming somewhere. I didn't expect it to be, just that he's, possibly they want to use him as a Harvey Dent in a future film. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I thought it was a giveaway when he came into courtroom that one morning and he took out his like files and folders and briefs and a juice box. Like, I thought that was too much. He was too young.
His Go-Gurt.
He took out his Go-Gurt. It does lead us though to some of Todd Phillips' making of issues. How up are you on kind of what creative control looks like with this movie?
I bet he was given too much of it.
I heard he took a lot of it and was pushing back against some things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting reports. I'm getting reports.
That's fine.
Just in.
Yeah. Hey, Scoop Troop, get ready.
Yeah, right. No, I have read reports that contradict one another. One, for example, that he was offered notes from James Gunn, head of the DC, films, on how he might steer this movie, and he turned them down. The conflicting reports say he never even asked James Gunn. He doesn't care what James Gunn said. Like, nobody cares. Like, this was an island of a project, and now it's over, right?
Yeah.
He had almost all creative control. Like, this was supposed to be Zaslav's like home run. Zaslav, who over at Warner Brothers has been like canceling things left and right that were ostensibly good for the tax write-off. This was the thing he let through because it was going to be the thing that made him the studio head that he's always wanted to be, right? The $1 billion shepherd after Joker. And yet here Phillips, with almost exhaustive creative control, refused to film in London for cost savings, took it to Los Angeles, ignored notes left and right. He declined to screen test the film, pushed for a first public screening in Venice at the Venice Film Festival. Like the reports from set of his participation in the team sport that is making a movie is extraordinary lack of collaboration on this film.
Well, I hope he had a good time. That power has been taken away from him now.
Yep.
He's not in movie jail, but he's never going to be given that type of creative control again.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be a long time.
I wonder. I mean, if let's just say the movie is cost as much to make as over 150, 190, 200 million dollars. I mean, once you put prints and advertising in there, what are you looking at? 250? I mean, it's just extraordinary. And as of today, combined worldwide grosses, according to Box Office Mojo, is 123, almost 124 million. So even at what is a grotesque success at $124 million for a movie, he's so far from making his nut back. So
I wonder how much was on, because in the trailer, there is a very striking, it's a long shot, it's a far away shot of the courtroom steps with both of them in their full regalia, huge crowds on both sides, and they're doing the steps.
Yep.
Dance.
Right. Yeah.
None of that is in the movie. I wonder how much, because that alone looks like it cost a couple $1 million, and it's not in the
showpiece, man.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And that was you could see when they did it in the movie, because we get her showing up in that outfit and she crawls through the press gaggle and she gets into the courthouse and there's no number. Right. I wanted number. I was waiting for number.
Where is number?
Where is number? And we didn't get it. So apparently, I don't understand this about Phoenix, but apparently, because I think he's got a voice. I think he's great, right? And didn't he was nice. Walk the Line, right? Like he's got pipes, and apparently he was reportedly sick every day due to nerves about singing and dancing. That the reportedly the complex musical sequences were highly pressure inducing for the actor, which may be one of the reasons why a number at least was cut. Who knows?
Oh, wow. Right. Okay.
But that criticism, we should put that aside, or that he needs to be celebrated, because I loved his body in this movie. He did the work. Like, he showed up and looked great. And I mean, what do you think about his transformation? How much do you think was him makeup? Like, do you think he really lost it all and did all that with his bones?
Well, he had that in the first movie too. Yes, I do believe it.
Yeah.
I do believe that he lost the weight. I don't think you can fake, because it didn't look CG.
It didn't look CG at all. No.
So yeah, I think that it's just he machinist it.
Yeah, he machinist it.
Like Christian Bale.
Yeah. Well, that's the movie. I mean, overall, I have to say, I don't even know what it is. I guess I want
to see it again.
I'm a fan. I enjoyed my time with this movie, and I'm frustrated that it is not doing very well. I'm frustrated that it is that it's got such consternation about it. It tells a different kind of story.
Yeah.
At a different time in history of DC lore, and I like the way it fits. I wish more people at DC would agree that it fits, because I kind of don't like that it's disconnected.
And it's just not that enormous of a right turn. It's a right turn, but it's like people are acting like the entire thing was animated. I just don't know what people wanted. It has the same look. It has the same grit. Joaquin Phoenix is outstanding in it. I thought Lady Gaga was super charming. I loved their relationship in that kind of wild love kind of thing. I don't know. It checked a lot of the same boxes while going in a different direction. And I feel like everyone missed some of those checked boxes. I don't know.
It's funny. Lady Gaga's performance, I mean, I think she may be the thing that is possibly the most DC of it, that she took that turn toward Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn that becomes crazy later in the lore. And the fact that she walks away from Arthur Fleck because he's not crazy enough is pitch perfect. It's perfect. It's told in a really dramatic, kind of sad way, but it's exactly because the next time she shows up, she's gonna be bonzo.
Right. For her
may have made that up.
Yeah.
Right. Crazy. Well, I think it's probably time for us to back away
Oh,
and
we have
rank
to
it.
rank it. I haven't even thought
ready
about
for
this
this?
yet.
You
I
ready?
am.
Ever feel like society's got you down? Like you're the only one who sees the joke? Well, my friends, the punchline is this: you're not alone. The Next Real Family of Film Podcast membership program will help you embrace the glorious chaos. $5 measly a month, that's less than a therapy session you don't need anyway. Or if you're feeling really crazy, just $55 for the whole year. And what do you get for your sanity-saving investment? Ha! Bonus episodes, early access, bonus content at the end of the episodes, your own personal podcast feed. It's like having your own little Arkham Asylum right between your ears. And that's not all. Ad-free episodes, live stream recordings, exclusive Discord channels. We're talking full-blown descent into madness with all the best perks. Support the podcast you love, they said. It'll be good for you, they said. Well, who's laughing now? So, join the Next Real Family. We're waiting with bells on and maybe a crowbar or two. Details at truestory.fm/join. Don't miss out on the fun. It'd be a real shame.
Here's what we're going to do. We're on Letterboxd. True Story FM's family film podcasts are all on the Next Reels HQ page over on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/thenextreel. And we're going to see where we're going to take stars from other movies and give them to this. You're shaking your head already, but you know spiritually you're doing this in your head
Never
now.
understand that idea.
You never let it go. There are
Month
finite
after month, I don't understand.
finite number of stars. What are you doing? How are you going to rank this? Steve, you first. Steve and me, boy.
Oh, because I saw it on Sunday, and then it was at a certain place. Then as I was talking through it with my friend that I saw it with, and it took me to one place, and then over the week I'm like, and it's been fluctuating. But now after talking through everything again with both of you, I really, I think I'm going to land on 4 stars and a heart with this one, because there were strong choices that were made, but and maybe it is from seeing them really like with just hours in between of really seeing them as a singular story may have strengthened that a lot. 4 stars and a heart for me on this one.
Fascinating. Okay. Thomas?
This is the wonderful nature of the film board. Before this conversation, solid 3. After this conversation, solid 4. I went up an entire number. What are these stars? I went up an entire star because I get it now. I didn't get it before. I was rankling with it. I still have some weirdness because it does follow some of the lore canon. It does not with some other. It plays it kind of fast and loose. But when did I start caring about canon? Who am I? Johnny Cannon? So anyways, I am going to give it 4 stars and a heart, and I do want to see it again.
Well, I am with you both in everything except number. When I sat down and, I wrote my review for Letterboxd days ago, and it landed at a solid 3 stars and a heart because it's a good movie and it was made well and it looks good. And also, I kind of really, the more we talk about it, really believe that the most interesting parts, as bogged down as it was inside the courthouse, the most interesting parts of the movie in my head are the movie that they didn't make. And I think that's what shaves some stars off of it for me. Like, it's just not, it doesn't feel complete in that exploration of him coming to terms with what he accidentally, inadvertently created. And that would have been a great film for me. Yeah.
All right. I'm down to 2 stars. Just kidding. I'm just insane. Yeah.
So we've got 4, and me at a lowly 3. What does that do to our average? I don't know. Math. I'm going to call it 3.666 repeating.
Mhm.
And so that'll round up actually to, we always rounds up to a 4 on Letterboxd. So you guys win. You win. It's fine.
We did it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, gents, for the conversation. What are we doing next month, Steve?
Oh, I get to decide? Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
get to.
Well,
No, I get to choose who gets to say it. You guys both have to be
but
ready
you
at
gave
all
it to
times.
me. No, I know, but then whatever I say
That means you're going to
that's-
change. We've all agreed
Right,
before.
right,
You're
yes,
just going to.
yes, I get to be an agent of chaos and say, let's do Gladiator 2.
Okay, Gladiator 2. We're talking about Gladiator 2. So don't worry, everybody. There will be a director's cut that will make it better. Don't forget to join our online community with fellow movie lovers. Hang out with us at Discord. thenextreel.com/Discord will get you in there. And, if this show has ever touched you in a real special way, please consider supporting the show and becoming a paying member. For a few bucks a month. You get some goodies, and we would love to share those goodies with you, including all the triple secret stuff that comes with it. Don't forget to do the stuff you're supposed to do, like, review, subscribe, and of course listen. But perhaps most importantly, share. Please let those movie lovers in your life know about the show. We'd love to have them join us too. Thanks, everybody. On behalf of Tommy Metz III and Steve Sarmento, I'm Pete Wright. Meeting adjourned. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way.